So consider chapter 5 in this brief discussion, conclusion and recommendations. And before I begin with what I have to say, so what are your views? What do you understand about conclusion and recommendations? So let's hear from you. So I need you to share your thoughts now. So Omar, Richard, Rachel, Israel.
Yes, I'm here, sir.
So can you share with us what do you understand about conclusion and recommendations in your
So,
research?
okay. So for me, the conclusion and recommendation, it's in conclusion is in terms of what you were able to arrive at after going through after you must have carried out the research using the models that you outlined initially. So I think it's from your chapter 4 where you already generated some results.
Mhm.
So that is like at the end, you're now concluding this is the outcome of your research. And
Okay.
after stating the outcome, then you are now recommending something that probably the next person that want to research on a related topic can actually work on, and you know, and things that you were unable to do, you think that they could actually um, develop on as well. So I think
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Two things you mentioned, research outcomes and future work. Any other contribution? Does Richard want to say something? Umar or Sajini? Any other comment, please?
Yeah, in the aspect of conclusion, I just like what Richard said. You're trying to explain what you've been able to discover in your chapter 4.
Mhm.
Then, if there are some challenges, you could also state them
Okay.
and possibly recommend. That's where the recommendation comes in. So you try to tell them that with these challenges, these are things that you feel that you could also recommend for future projects or research on it, so that you could also create a research gap for other people to also work on. And so these are
Yeah.
the things that I feel it should be.
Good. That sounds great. So you added something to this. Research outcomes. We should also document some limitations and then the future work. Now, this is what your um, recommendation and, or better say, your conclusion and recommendation chapter should cover. And one more thing that should be added is the contribution to knowledge. Now, if you've done all that you could do, in chapter 4, we mentioned that you will also have to include the list of findings, okay? Because now you've been able to merge the implementation of the methodology to the objectives, and now you have results. So you should be able to tell us how you were able to achieve the objectives. So each objective should give us at least one finding. So each finding for each objective. So if you have 5 objectives, you should have 5 findings. But in conclusion, you now want to provide a general overview, summary of the study. So you also want to highlight some of the critical or key findings. Then you want to position your conclusion and then document some of the limitations. You don't want to say your work is so perfect without flaws. There should be some gaps, okay? So some of the gaps you may have identified in your work. You also want to mention them. That will also help researchers to improve on your work and, if possible, to reproduce your work. And then you want to document the recommendation future work, okay? So when you do this, you also want to mention what you believe are the contributions to knowledge based on your study, okay? So we'll just break this session into 3 major subsessions, which would be the conclusion session, the recommendation session, and then the contribution to knowledge session. And together we'll look up what should be contained in each of these sessions, okay? And having done this, we should have something just after this. So can we also say it's part of your chapter 5? Well, it's a concluding part of your report anyway, although it starts from a new page, references. It starts from a new page, right? So your chapter 5 starts from a new page, your references start from a new page. And afterwards, another thing you want to add would be the appendices, right? This also starts from a new page because all the codes, some special diagrams, raw data, even plates, etc. Can name them. They all come under appendices. Now, some of these things may take too many pages in your main report. So probably in your report, you want to refer to them. So you can say, as shown or depicted in appendix. Probably this is appendix 1. Probably this is appendix 2. Say this is appendix 3. Say this is appendix 4, for instance. Okay. So in your report, probably in your chapter 3, where you end up talking about the algorithm and all of that, then you want to refer to the code. You don't want to include codes in the main report. So you want to refer to the code to say, well, based on this algorithm, using so programming language or whatsoever, the code for the implementation of this algorithm is as depicted or as shown rather in appendix 4. So you've referenced it. Same for raw data, okay? Let's assume it's empirical study and you've collected data, raw data, probably signal strength data. And you want to use that to predict the signal coverage within that environment so as to come up with some path loss analysis, or better still, it's microwave data transmission signal you collected. So you want to check out the path loss, okay, and all of that, probably to design some microwave antennas, depending on what you want to do. Or probably you took the coverage signal from the band antennas. Then you want to do whatever you want to do, probably path loss within that environment. So you also come up with some interesting models, and you want to use that information to design antennas. So the raw data, you want to refer to it as presented in appendix 1, okay? So you want to make reference to all of this. And also, one thing I haven't mentioned, when you include figures or tables in your report, you also want to refer to them in the report. So you write and say, well, as shown in table XYZ, as depicted in figure this. So you must always refer to those figures. So it means your figures and tables must be well labeled. Okay, so let's look up what we should have in conclusion. Now, this could be your session 5.0, okay? So the bottom line is this session literally provides a concise overview, okay, of your research engagement. And it should include things like, now, you try to solve a problem. You figured out a research problem. And afterwards, you figured out a methodology to address that problem. You equally stated an approach to that problem, to solving that problem. So it would be good for you to restate the problem, okay? So there should be a restatement. The research problem. And you want to tell the reader the problem you solved, okay? Why the study was conducted, because you didn't just go into research. You went into research to address a problem. So you want to restate that. And when you mention the problem you attempted to solve in this, you also want to provide a summary overview of the method you used, okay? So you want to provide a brief overview of the methodology. And in this case, we already mentioned that it could be experimental research. It could be computational. It could also be design-based, okay? So now you want to provide a summary of the approach you use. And then, having applied that method, you got results, right? So you want to also provide some key findings. So here, you don't just want to mention everything. You want to emphasize significant results. And once this is done, the findings we know are linked with the objectives. So you want to provide a linkage with the objectives, right? So at this point, you want to clearly state how these objectives were achieved. How did you achieve them? Now, if you feel the objectives will be too bogus to emphasize or to provide the linkage for, then you want to provide a linkage, you know, with respect to the aim of the research. But you want to emphasize in clear terms, simple and clear terms, how you achieve the aim. But it's best you identify how you achieve each of the objectives, okay? And your conclusion will not be complete if you do not provide some empirical evidence, okay? Now, if truly you achieve some results, they must be measurable, okay? So here, you want to draw your conclusion with what happened or with your findings in chapter 4, okay? So some of those statistical analysis, the statistical analysis you performed to evaluate the superiority of your findings over some others, you want to also document them in your conclusion. You say, well, this is 0 point blah, 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 or XYZ dB improvement over blah, 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 blah. looking up all of the contending, blah, blah, blah. So, but this, I perform so, 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 and so, and so, based on, so you want to provide some data, empirical evidence. So it means in choosing, or better say, in documenting your objectives, just like, or better say, as we mentioned earlier, they should be measurable, right? And then you also don't want to make um, your conclusion exaggerated, right? So you want to be very, very realistic. Okay, so it should be realistic and generalized. Okay, so you don't want to exaggerate the impact of your findings. You did not solve the entire problem, the research problems in the world. You only solved one that may also have some limitations, right? So you want to avoid that, trap of the perfectionist ideology. Okay? You've tried the best you could. To the best of your knowledge, you've attempted a method you know works, but you're not telling the whole world that this is the best method. Okay? But it's a method that worked and gave you some, results that show superiority over some other results. But notwithstanding, you also want to mention some of the limitations of your findings. Okay? And the limitations could span different dimensions, okay? It could be technical limitation, okay? Something technical, it could be the processing power, it could be something else, okay? Then it could also be methodological limitation. Probably the method you used, okay? Let's assume you used a numerical method, probably the computational power, okay? Could be convergence problem, okay? So the sample size of your sample space, maybe it was too small, and probably the result would have been better if you had, if you had a larger sample space. Probably you took data of 2, 3 years. Probably, if you had gotten data of the last 10, 20 years, probably that would have improved the accuracy of your findings. Okay, so whatsoever you feel must have gone wrong or may have impacted on the accuracy of your findings methodologically, you also want to mention them. Then another limitation you want to look up is the practical constraint. Okay, so when it comes to uh, actual usage, okay, so you've figured out something. How about the implementation? Is it going to have hardware support? Is it, do we have to redesign the hardware so as to use this technology? Now, is it user friendly with the population that will end up using this technology have to start learning or relearning new techniques, new systems, and all of that? So you also want to look at the practical constraints. So once you cover all of these, then you want to put up your closing remark. For your conclusion. So what should be your closing remark? You want to reaffirm the importance of the research. You want to emphasize the practical relevance of your findings. And then you want to also put up a statement that will more like direct the focus of your work into some other future consideration. And possibly what it could do now, what it could do in the future, and on. But this should also be catchy. So with this, we say your conclusion is done with. And then we can now consider what should be in the recommendation section. Now, in your recommendations, you want to suggest how the research findings can be applied both in practice and also improved in the future. Okay? Let's put that down. Now, once you do this, you want to provide recommendation for industry practice and also recommendation for that research. Unfortunately, we always emphasize this point, okay? But beyond this point, we understand that other researchers want to pick it up and all of that. Fine. What if other researchers don't pick it up? So you should also look up the industry relevance, okay? So you want to check how they will apply it, what considerations or things, what should be considered, should it be adopted, okay? So if we already have some variants of this technology, is it that this is less expensive? Okay, so, and if it is, what could be done to improve the accuracy in practice? Okay, so some of those things should be mentioned, okay? And then you want to pass a recommendation for further research. So are there certain technical areas that should be considered in future work? Okay, so is there anything that could improve on the accuracy of your findings or improve the models, you know, in future work? So you could document such so that researchers could pick them up. And then one more thing we need to talk about is contribution to knowledge. So this session literally highlights the original contributions of your study, okay? So you want to tell us what you contributed to academic research, industry practice, and technological advancement. So well, these two, they are a little tricky. It could also mean the same thing, okay? But we could also consider technological advancement in academic research. So your contribution to knowledge, your contribution or contributions to knowledge should cover up these domains. So you want to tell us how it will impact these domains, okay? And your contribution to knowledge could be categorized into three broad headings, okay? So types of the major or categories of contributions. Categories. So one thing you want to look out for is theoretical contributions. So probably you came up with a new algorithm. You came up with a new learning model. These are theoretical, okay? So interesting. So you want to document them, okay? Then it could also be methodological. So probably you came up with a new method, okay? You tested, or better say, combined some techniques and all of that, and then you came up with a new method to address a particular problem. Perfect. Then we also have practical and industrial contributions. So you want to tell us, if we have variance, just like I mentioned earlier, so is this going to be cost effective? So if we take this as an alternative, okay, so is it going to provide more comfort if we take it as an alternative? So now this is what those in the industry will look out for to commercialize your product, okay, or your idea. Okay, I think this is about it. So I think, okay, I'm still within time. So afterwards, you can include your references, then your appendices, and all of that. So any question, please? Any comment? Probably you've got some contributions. Any? So okay, Sarah is back now. So what are your thoughts about what we just discussed? Sarah.
Good day, sir.
Yeah, very good day.
Good day, sir.
Yeah, good day, good day, good day. So tell us, what are your thoughts about what we just discussed?
I think all your everything you explained concerning the contribution chapter, I think is well clear. It's very clear rather.
Okay. Okay.
My
So
only question I want to ask is on the practical and industrial contribution. I don't know if you can expatiate on that again.
Okay. I think in one of the sessions we used what's it called now? This apnea monitor. Yeah. So we used the apnea monitor, right? In one of our series. Was it on the literature review? Can you still remember?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Let's say for the apnea monitor.
Literature.
You use that as an example. Yes,
Okay.
yes. Use it as an example.
Perfect. So let's
to illustrate.
assume, okay. So let's assume we want to talk about the
Yes.
practical and industrial contributions of this apnea monitor, for instance. Okay, so we know there are quite a number of apnea monitors, especially for neonates in the market, but they are quite expensive. So it's very possible we now come up with a wearable device, okay? And then the contribution in this case would be that the device provides a low-cost alternative to traditional hospital-grade apnea monitors, okay? So that could be one contribution, right? That the device okay? And also, we could say that since it's a wearable, since we applied wearable technology, probably the wearable apnea monitor will improve neonates' comfort. Okay, rather than find a way to plug some sensors on the body of the neonate and begin to monitor, well, it just wears it like a shirt, a lightweight wearable apnea monitoring device. Boom. So we just position two contributions to knowledge that have some practical and industrial components. Does that make sense? So Sarah, is that okay?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So
yes, it does.
Okay, that's fine. So any other question, please, before we call it a day? So, Mr. Irabo, are you okay? Are you good? Omar Ali. Okay, Rachel, go ahead, please.
I want to ask a question with respect to the reference.
Okay.
In terms of doing the reference, is there like a particular referencing method we are supposed to use?
Okay, I think in the department we prefer the IEEE references style. Okay. So, but personally, I prefer the Harvard referencing style because with the Harvard referencing style, we are able to play with the surname of the author or authors and the year of publication. So we're able to keep tabs and track of the recency and of the publication and and all of that. So in my presentations, I'll prefer you stick with Harvard. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
That can both be used.
No. You want to stick with one. You want to use one. We can't be using numbering and Harvard at the same time. Now, for the IEEE, you want to
Sir,
arrange in that increasing order. Okay, go ahead, please, Sarah. Yeah, will you? You can go ahead.
sir, the the IEEE, you were saying we should use Harvard. Is it going to be for the main project and mini project,
Both.
or it's
Both.
just for the main project? We're going to use
Or
IEEE.
both. No, don't use IEEE for me. Use Harvard, and you could also automate. You could automate your referencing. So as to make enable your easy access to switching between different styles. Okay, you could do that. So, but if you're not automated, I'll prefer you go with Harvard.
Sir, I actually started with the IEEE style, so I don't know if I should switch back.
Well,
Harvard.
let's switch to Harvard. I think I've reviewed your report. I sent it back to you, so it's as good as
Yes.
picking things up from the beginning. So just stick with Harvard.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that's it for now.